Welcome back to the It's and Queens podcast, the only podcast that keeps you connected to the people, the stories, and the experiences that make this borough shine, even when it's covered in snow. This show is brought to you each week thanks to the Queens Economic Development Corporation and the Queens Tourism Council. They're both committed to spotlighting our borough and everything about it, the people, the places, all the neighborhoods that make Queens such a remarkable destination. I'm your weekly host, Jeff Simmons, and if you're anywhere near the city right now, well, you made it through the rain. Oh, I'm sorry. You made it through the snow. Now, New Yorkers are tough. We've weathered blizzards, nor'easters, those surprise storms that show up just when you're about to finally put away the shovel. But still, winter in New York City can really test your patience, right? Getting the kids to school, catching the train when your boots are soaked, scraping the windshield, juggling work. It all adds up. For a lot of us, the cold doesn't just chill our fingers, it also tightens our shoulders and maybe our moods. So here's a thought. What if instead of fighting winter, we used it as an invitation to slow down, to breathe, to recharge? Yoga might be one of the best ways to melt the stress. No heat lamp required. And that brings me to this week's guest. I'm talking with Dana Humphrey, a Queens-based yoga instructor who really embodies the idea of finding calm amid the chaos. Dana teaches a variety of classes around the borough, from chair yoga to yin yoga, and so much more. She and her partner, Onel Moulet, even lead a beautifully relaxing yin yoga and live flute sound bath workshop. Doesn't that sound great? Combining movement and live music for a full sensory experience. So let's get to our conversation with Dana Humphrey about making yoga accessible, embracing the winter season, and finding stillness even on snowy days. Dana Humphrey, welcome back to the It's in Queens podcast.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's great to be here.
So, for listeners who may just be hearing your name for the first time, tell us a bit more about your background and what led you to teaching yoga.
Well, I was in public relations for many years and helping small businesses market their businesses. And during the pandemic, I went to Guatemala and I ended up living there for 3 months. I had gone there just to go on vacation for a retreat for 2 weeks, and lo and behold, I got stuck in paradise over there and had some time to really reflect on what was important and what I wanted to focus on. So I came back from Guatemala in June of 2020 and decided that I really wanted to dedicate my life to helping people, and thought that I could do that through teaching yoga. So I got my yoga certification in 2022 with Jimmy Barkin in Florida, and I've been teaching yoga ever since. And I was always an athlete. I was a soccer player for 20 years. I played lacrosse in for university at San Diego State, and I really didn't discover yoga for my body until about 2017. And that's when I found hot yoga. And that was kind of my gateway into yoga. And I've been practicing about 5 days a week ever since then.
And you teach a range of classes across the borough. How would you describe the differences between some of these practices and what draws people to each and what draws you to each?
What I really fell in love with about hot yoga was that it's very accessible. The hot yoga series is 26 postures in a particular order every single time. And so if you think about yoga, it comes from India. There's like 984 yoga poses. A lot of times you'll hear people say, like, I don't know, I just do regular yoga. And all yoga is yoga. Meditation is the highest form of yoga. And you know, it it's there's many different ways to find your asana, find your steady seat, or find your steady pose. And for me, what was really appealing about the hot yoga is that um, I found that it was very easy to follow along. It was not too fast paced, and it's very beginner friendly. And so I was really able to kind of jump in without having a lot of experience. And some of the poses, are called a 10-year pose. I mean, they're really like you're a beginner for 10 years. And so I also love that about that is that I can come back to the same shape every time with this kind of beginner's mindset of what how does this feel like today and what's happening today? Um, and so since I discovered hot yoga, I started practicing other forms of yoga as well. In the summer of 2024, I went to Kripalu and got my yin yoga certification. And yin yoga is also like very accessible, I would say. Yin yoga is 98% on the floor. It's usually on the floor. There are a couple of shapes that will do upwardly, but it's more rare. And so, and it's dedicated to expanding the fascia. So, whereas other styles of yoga like hot yoga or vinyasa are more working with your muscles, tendons, ligaments, the entire body, yin is kind of the opposite. So those styles of yoga, hot yoga, vinyasa yoga, those are more yang, like if you think about yin and yang. And yin is really coming down back to the earth, more grounding on the mat the whole time. There's a lot of modifications. So anyone who has had, a hip surgery, a knee surgery, or anything like that, it's a really gentle, it can be a gentle practice. And the idea is to help you to stretch your fascia. And sometimes we hear this phrase like you keep your issues in your tissues. And so the connective tissue is a place where we can release some of that tension through this practice. And so in yin, we hold poses for anywhere from 2 to 6 minutes. Um, and so you have time to go inward, to meditate, to be with yourself, to notice what thoughts are coming up, to notice how your body's feeling, and get really, really present.
And
So,
and I want to jump in because as you're speaking
yeah,
about this, it makes me think of that you would do a yin yoga and live flute sound bath workshop with a partner. Talk a little about that collaboration and what that workshop is about.
sure. Yeah. That's something that really lights me up. So once I became a yin yoga teacher, my partner is a musician. He's been a saxophone player, a flautist, his entire life. He's traveled all around the world playing with many different amazing bands and artists like Celia Cruz and he's recently been studying sound bath therapy with Vikram Paul, and together we started offering this yin yoga and live flute sound bath. And so we've been offering it now for about a year and a half, and I guide people through the yin yoga practice where he plays several flutes, he plays a gong, he plays lots of different sound bowls, singing bowls, and it's really it's a really nice practice. And it could be anywhere from an hour to 90 minutes. And we offer that in Rockaway at Hot Yoga Rockaway Beach. We also offer it in Maspeth at Queens Community Yoga. It's a workshop that we've also brought to different festivals, everywhere from Bhakti Bliss Festival in Canada. We're bringing it to Mexico in February, and lots of different yoga festivals around the New York City area and New York State, I should say, and a couple of other states as well. Um, and we love doing that. It's a way, that we can work together, we can do something that we love, and we really just created it together out of a synergy of, him wanting to offer the sound bath and me wanting to offer the yin and noticing that it was a really beautiful way to collaborate.
And one of the reasons I wanted to speak with you, and Rob Mackay had pointed this out, was that you also lead a chair yoga workshop as well, and that's becoming increasingly popular. Talk a little about that and who the audience would be, who the attendees would be, because I'm sure as people listen to this, they might be thinking, well, should I do yin yoga? Should I do chair yoga? So I'd love to also find out what's appealing to each, type of demographic.
Totally. Yeah, so that's really my whole thing is like what, how can people get into yoga? If, a headstand is not for you, or that's feels intimidating, like I get it. I'm not in the yoga room doing headstands every day. It's really, what sounds interesting to you, and how can you find a class that works for you? And so chair yoga is a really great access point. And it's something that, I do teach at senior centers, I teach at libraries, I teach at yoga studios. And so it could be something that, could be a good fit for someone who's maybe a little bit older, has less mobility, and wants to just do something that helps move their body in a safe way, right, in the chair. It's also great just for anyone. I have a mom that comes to my class that she says she loves it because she just had a baby, and it's great for postpartum, just to do something gentle. She knows she's not going to overstrain herself. I have people that come to my chair yoga class that are recovering from injuries or from surgeries. So I find that there's actually a greater age range that comes to my chair yoga class than I had originally expected. And so all bodies are welcome. And every class is a little bit different. In chair yoga, we sit in a chair. We usually start with a little bit of grounded meditation for a few moments just to get centered. And then I'll guide people through some nice neck movements, some twists. At some point, we might stand up and use the chair for leverage. And I play music. I usually bring my singing bowl to kind of round us out at the end. The chair yoga classes are usually an hour. And I offer those every Thursday at Queens Community Yoga in Maspeth. It's from 4 to 5 p.m. It's super accessible. I think it's $18 to come to a chair yoga class there. It's fun to bring a friend. It's very relaxing. And I also, I always work with the bodies in the room. If somebody comes in and says, I'm having something going on with my elbow, we'll notice about that. Or I have someone who has something going on with her hand. So I give her some hand homework.
So New Yorkers are, we're always on the go, or that's the perception of us. Yoga can really benefit so many people, especially as you want to calm down and you don't want to be stressed out. Give some advice on if someone's listening and they're like, well, where do I start? Especially, and how do I start?
Sure. Yeah, if you have trouble sleeping, if you have high blood pressure, if you have anxiety, yoga can really, really help all of those things. And if you're somebody who, is more like a type A personality, hot yoga might be a better option for you to start just because it's or a vinyasa class because it keeps moving, and so it gives your mind a little bit less time to think about all the other things that you like to think about, or all of your to-do lists that are happening outside of the room. Um, Yin yoga, I really recommend yin yoga to everyone. Um, it's a great practice to start to learn how to be a little bit more quiet. And it is something that takes time, and it takes some practice. And it's nice to try out different styles to see which one works for you. Some people, love vinyasa, and that's a little bit more of a active flow with down dogs and different types of warrior poses. And so that might be a good fit for somebody who's used to, going for a 6 mile run every day. Maybe that would be a good access point for them. Someone who's looking for something a little bit more gentle, yin yoga is a great option, or even a chair yoga would be, a better option.
And your weekly training or teaching schedule really hits multiple neighborhoods. Are there specific trends or needs that you're noticing among your students that you work with in Queens and would love some advice and love to just know what the latest trends are in yoga?
Yeah, I mean, When it comes to, so yoga kind of tends to get clumped into like this fitness category. And so what's really kind of hot right now is Pilates. So we see a lot of new Pilates studios opening. And I think that, if somebody is excited about what's kind of like the trendy new workout and they're jumping into Pilates, that's amazing. It's great strength training. It's great overall body health. And yoga can be a really nice complement to that. So if you're doing some kind of more fitness or strength training or Pilates a couple of times a week, maybe balancing that out once or twice a week with some yoga to help your nervous system and help, kind of bring down the energy a little bit. And so, yeah, unfortunately, yoga is not that trendy. It's an ancient practice, and that's really the beautiful thing about it is, anybody can do it, and it's something that's available to all bodies, and there's lots of different classes that are, kind of accustomed to different levels, I would say.
And before I ask for your information on how people can learn more about you, I'd love to know about how personally yoga has changed you in your life.
Yeah, so I identify as kind of a recovering type A personality. I used to be an entrepreneur and be on the go all the time and have, meetings in Manhattan every day and commute from Queens. I've always been a Queens girl. Um, and so at first, I also was a marathon runner and a triathlete and Ironman. And so really kind of like intense. And so for me, the hot yoga was a really great way to kind of bridge my go, 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 very young, intense lifestyle to the yoga room. And at first, I would say I was interested in the practice from a physical standpoint. And over time, I started to realize the um, more mental and emotional benefits of the practice as well. And so that's one of the things that we kind of talk about in yoga is it's mind, body, and spirit. And so at first, it might be that we want to, and we're interested in the practice for our physical bodies, right? Everybody wants that summer six pack, whatever nice bathing
Well,
suit
especially
body.
this time of year, as people are starting to think, okay, I've got a few months before the warmer weather.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's all good. And it personally in my practice, I've been practicing now pretty regularly for about 9 years, is that I've noticed the subtle shifts where it used to be more about my physical body, and then it became more about my mental and spiritual health as well. And so what I love about going to a yoga class, for example, is that in an hour I can meditate, I can breathe, I can move my body, I can sweat. Basically, all the things I want to do in an entire day, I can do in an hour. And so that's really why I continue to practice and why, I believe that it's such an amazing offering for everyone. And it's like the busier you are, the more that you might need this.
That makes a lot of sense. Some people might say, "Wait, I'm very busy. How can I do it?" But once you do it, it helps you to calm down. And I'm so impressed by the fact that earlier you had mentioned most people see this as part of like a physical fitness routine, but it's so much more. It's about mental health, it's about wellness.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and another benefit is especially is community. Like at Queen's Community Yoga Studio, it's a beautiful community. You get to meet your neighbors. There's, we call it the Sangha, the community. You come in, you put your mat down, you see someone, a friendly face. Maybe you have a little conversation with them. Maybe you just practice next to them and you don't have a conversation with them. But it's a way to, be with your neighbors, be with your community. Um, on a regular basis and kind of start to develop those relationships. So the yoga community is a very safe space. It can be a beautiful place to create friendships as well.
And Dana, before I let you go, let our listeners know where they should go if they want to learn more about you and your work.
Wonderful. Well, I do have a website. It's danahumphrey.com. There's a yoga section coming on there soon. I'm also super active on Instagram at Dana K. Humphrey. And you can also look up the website, queenscommunityyoga.org or hotyogarockawaybeach.com. And I hope to see you, at one of my classes soon. You can always reach out to me on social media. And I do have a link tree that shows my classes and my upcoming workshops as well. We offer the yin and flute workshop on a fairly often basis. We have one coming up on Saturday, January 31st at Hot Yoga Rockaway Beach. And we also have one coming up at Diamama in Ridgewood in February. So
Perfect. I want to make sure people check that out. Dana Humphrey, thank you so much for appearing with us again.
thank you.
That was such a great chat with Dana. I love what she said about making yoga less about perfection, more about connection. Connection to your breath, to your body, to your neighborhood. Yoga does not have to mean fancy poses or a special mat. It can simply mean taking a mindful pause in a very, very busy day, or even doing stretches in your chair. Well, maybe when you sip hot cocoa, but maybe not because you're going to spill it all over. Plus, during the cold weather, yoga really has good benefits, health benefits. It helps circulation and boosts your immune system. You can even improve your mood when the sky's been gray for days. So maybe next time you're watching the snow pile up outside, take it as a sign to light a candle, roll out the mat, or just find a little space to breathe and reset. And speaking of finding inspiration right here in Queens, let's check in with our very own Rob Mackay, who's always got the inside scoop on upcoming events, eats, and cultural happenings around the borough.
Hello, Jeff. It's the year of the fire horse, the seventh sign in the Chinese zodiac that's coming up in February. This is going to be good for you as it means confidence and energy, independence, speed, all those things. And every year at the Kupferberg Center for the Arts in Flushing, the Nine Ni Chen Dance Company does a Lunar New Year celebration, taking into account which year it is according to the zodiac. So this year, on Sunday, February 1st at 3 o'clock out of Queens College, Nai Ni is going to put on a great performance with majestic dragons, dancing lions, elegant peacocks, stunning acrobats, twirling ribbons, all kinds of athleticism. Plus, it'll feature a special piece called Carousel, which draws its inspiration from the imagery of carousels and, of course, the strength and grace of horses. It's only $22. It's 65 minutes. I go every year. It's a little bit different. It's always a lot of fun, and I suggest it a lot. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Rob. Always bringing the warmth, even when the weather does not. There's always something new to discover in Queens, and that is only a glimpse of what's coming up. For even more ideas, head right over to it'sinqueens.com. That's the go-to place to explore everything that's happening across our borough. And if you are interested in learning more about business resources or opportunities for entrepreneurs, then head right over to queensny.org and sign up for the QEDC newsletter when you're there. Now, when you're out and about, whether you're enjoying a great meal or catching a show or exploring a neighborhood that you've never visited before, take a moment and don't forget to snap a photo and tag us on Instagram or X and use the hashtag #It'sInQueens. Your snapshot might even become our next photo of the week. So as the snowstorm ends, thankfully, Queens will not stop for the cold. No, we're going to continue moving ahead. Whether you are heading to a cozy class or exploring a hidden cafe or just taking a peaceful walk through a snowy park, there really is so much life and livelihood in our borough that's out there to enjoy. So keep warm, keep kind, and maybe stretch those shoulders a bit before you grab that shovel once again. From all of us here at It's in Queens, stay safe, stay centered, and we'll see you next week on the It's in Queens podcast.